Hello everyone, Canon Loa here, this time with Path of Exile, and I just wanted to make a video discussing on how I thought of Delve League in Path of Exile, especially since it is almost over. There's about a week left of Delve League, what I thought of it, and what could have been done better, what it did good, and so on. So, what is the main mechanic of Delve League? Well, Delve League, basically you go around any area in any acts or maps or whatever, you find these volcanic sulfite either veins or chests.
This is good stuff.
After you click on it, Nico the Mad will collect this sulfur for you. And how you use this sulfur is that in this league you are able to have your own mine encampment. It's kind of like your hideout, but specifically designed for Delve League. And he is right here even.
So I was imagining, wasn't long ago.
So as you delve through the depths of this mine shaft, you can gain azurite, and that's how you gain various upgrades, like how much sulfur you can have, darkness resistance, which I'll get into soon, a light radius, you can create flares, and dynamite. So this is what the map sort of looks like, and Nico will kind of mine this singular shaft for you, so you don't have to go through the entire main story, be level 60 plus and start at level 1. No, he will mine at least all the way down to 61 for you, so that's how that worked. Now once you delve here, these are the different kind of waypoints, and you can go to anything branching to somewhere you have been. So this azurite vault contains azurite, like it says. You can go for ones that contain weapons, armor, jewelry, even gems and whatnot. So you can, to a degree, delve for the very specific items if you connect to them. And then depending on how far it is, it will cost more or less sulfite that you collect. So let's briefly go to this azurite vault here. So once you go into the mine, you have this what's called a crawler, and that will create the light for you. And the darkness, as soon as you get outside of this this light radius, you take damage. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things that I think I really didn't the thing that I liked the least was the darkness. And I think this league was actually somewhat less popular than some of their other ones. How I know that is because I can actually trade in standard league. Usually if there's a league that is extremely popular, like Legacy League or Breach League back then, you could not trade in Standard League worth anything. So the fact that I can actually trade in Standard mode, Standard League, kind of lets me know that this wasn't as popular as some of those other ones. And I think mainly the darkness was one of them. So once you click your destination, you can move here to start it, and then the crawler will go on its way, creating the light, and then revealing monsters in your way. So one thing that I would like to mention is that I didn't like about this is that, number one, if the crawler goes away that you aren't expecting and you don't know about it, or you have a mob like that just you don't kill fast enough and it blocks your way, you can easily die from the darkness. And enemies in the darkness seem to be invincible for some reason. I mean, I think that's probably intentional, but it's kind of annoying as well, because sometimes you can have like one or two rare enemies chasing you, and they're just barely outside of the light radius, and then you can't kill them because they're invincible. So for the Azurite one, well, pretty much all of them, it just spawns mobs of various enemies depending on what it is. Like, it could be undead or just cave creatures like in this one. It's just all kinds of stuff. So once we get done with this here, you can see all of the loot that you get. Okay, there we go. So all the Azurite kind of just go near it and you collect it on your own here. So you can see that you do get a pile of loot for every delve that you do, and obviously depending on which destination you chose, that could focus on pretty much anything: weapons, armor, gems, etc. So that is how you get Azurite or other items. And this league, I noticed that while I was playing, it is actually very profitable if you can withstand delving multiple times, as much as you can, especially if you choose one that has gems. Oftentimes the gems have some quality on them, so you can use the gem cutters recipe to get gem cutters from those and whatnot. So
Wasn't long ago I went. Farewell.
So I will say that definitely it is profitable, but the problems that I have with this league personally is primarily the darkness mechanic. I really don't think that they should have made the darkness hurt you, because like I said, if the crawler goes a way that you weren't expecting, or you just have a mob that is in your way and you can't kill it, it can lead to your death because of the darkness. The flares create an area of effect light for a time, so I mean, to a degree you can work around not being by the crawler, but I typically don't rely on those. See why I have 0, I guess. And the dynamite can either deal damage to mobs or break open cracked walls or something, which I haven't actually seen any cracked walls, probably because I'm more focused on following the crawler so I don't die. So how I think this league could have been better is, instead of the darkness hurting you and making monsters invincible, what I think they should have done was make it so that it somehow makes it so that you are more vulnerable to enemies and the enemies are harder, instead of them being invincible and the darkness itself hurting you. For an example, if you're in the darkness, let's just say maybe you have 25% reduced maximum player resistances or something, and then the enemies take 50% less damage, or they have some kind of buff depending on which area you're in. Like, they have different named areas like Petrified Forest, Magma Fissure, etc. They could have made it so that in the darkness in this area it reduces your maximum resistances, or in this area the monsters are faster and deal increased damage if you're in the darkness, or something like that, instead of the darkness itself hurting you. And then if they did that, well, then you wouldn't need to worry about darkness resistances at all. Even though that, honestly, darkness resistance isn't, in my opinion anyway, isn't really worth investing in, because why would you invest in that when you can make the light radiuses of the crawler bigger so that you don't take damage from that in the first place? But anyway, the light radius for the crawler decreasing the lower you go, I thought that was good. I thought it made sense, and it definitely does make it harder in the long run there, especially if you go really, really deep there. I also thought that the limited supply of sulfite and making it so that you have to stop delving at some point was... I don't know, I thought that... I kind of felt like that it should have been made so maybe... or at least increase the amount of sulfite that you get from the chests and stuff, because in some areas you only get like 30 at a time. When I was doing maps, I think I was getting roughly 100, so I guess it's not that bad if you do maps a lot. But I thought, like, since the whole thing was about delving, that it would have more opportunity for you to delve more. Another thing is that since you use the azurite to upgrade everything to delve deeper, I kind of thought that the game overemphasizes azurite so much that you almost should go straight for the azurite ones and then not worry about any loot at all, just so that you can upgrade your stuff enough in order to go deeper. So that's kind of some negatives. Now, some positives about this is that I do like the idea of especially having an alternative to maps. I personally find that maps, to a degree, if you do them a lot, they do get very repetitive after a long stretch of time. So having an alternative to leveling up besides doing maps was really refreshing to me. Instead of thinking, oh, I have to do tier 6 through 10 maps that are all rare every single time to get the bonus for them. Instead, I can go for this and try to get loot, specific loot that I am close to. So I thought that was great. Also, just the loot, having the fact that you can get a lot of loot, it's in it of itself in this was really good too. Like, even though that it was, especially with the darkness, that it can be very dangerous, but you are also rewarded accordingly for that. Kind of like how the rarity of map increases the amount of stuff that you get. So I did like those aspects of it. So that's kind of, I think that pretty much covers my thoughts on this league. I guess another thought that I just came up with was that if you don't have a very good, like, air of effect build of some sort, like if your build is more focused on a single target rather than a group, I would say that delving would be very difficult, because of that you have to keep up with the crawler and everything. But I think in general it's just well, it doesn't necessarily have to be late game, but I think in general it's just easier to do AoE related builds, just so you can kill mobs much easier. So I guess that doesn't matter as much, but I just thought that I might as well bring that up. So I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. So I thought it was a really good idea, but if they do incorporate it either later on or have some aspect of it in Standard League, because sometimes they carry over some stuff from other leagues into the Standard League, that like I said, I really think that they should have reworked the darkness. Instead of the darkness itself killing you by you being in it, that it somehow either debuffs you or buffs the monsters and make them harder instead of making them invincible, to make it more very dangerous to be in the darkness from the monsters, but you just don't instantly die as soon as you're outside of the crawler range. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. So thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.